Very, very much for joining us. What I want to do today, we started this new series of webinars called Selling and Afraid. Selling and Afraid. The reason why we chose that name, and I conferenced the name with all 30 of our staff, is because the one thing I hear from sellers all over the world is that every seller wakes up in fear all day long. Their account's going to be suspended, that they're going to lose their leading ASIN. And this is the number one thing that sellers need to know about selling and afraid. So the goal of mine is that you're not afraid and you're not living in fear. But since I recognize that, it's kind of a play on the words. So just bear with me, selling and afraid. And the first topic we're going to talk about are inauthentic suspensions. Inauthentic suspensions are still the number one reason for losing an ASIN or your entire account going down, whether you are a humongous seller doing tens of millions of dollars a year or more, or you just started out, or anywhere in between. Inauthentic suspensions. So I'm going to go through this. I presented this lecture before. I'm in Brooklyn, New York, in Chicago, in Seattle. I've talked about this around the world, but I think every single seller, even those who don't get to attend the events, needs to know about inauthentic suspensions, inauthentic listings going down, and how you can deal with it in advance and how you can get your listing back very, very quickly. Okay. Now, about 40% of what we do here is dealing with non-legal plans of action, about 40%. We charge the same thing as the consultants out there, and we just do a really great job. Everything is written here in our Long Beach, New York office. Nothing is outsourced. Nothing is sent to the Philippines. We don't work out of a UPS store. We are a real live entity that helps Amazon sellers all over the world. So Selling and Afraid, this is our very first Selling and Afraid. I'm going to talk about inauthentic suspensions. Okay, so here we go. Skip this slide. This is a little bit about me, a little self-promotion. Now, the information contained in the book in the middle of your screen, any domestic seller that sends me their domestic address in the US, I'll send you a free copy of the book. So if you hear this video, if you watch me, if you think it's good information, shoot me an email with your address. I'll send you a free copy of the book. Okay, now, where does the information that me and my fantastic team here in New York come from? Okay, one, thousands of suspensions and thousands of ASINs that we've helped reinstate. Okay, so we see what works. Also, by doing so many of these things, we're able to see the trends before other people. And so we use our collaborative work environment. We work in different rooms with tables of 8 people each, where we bounce ideas off each other. What's going to work for this seller? How do we deal with this complaint? How do we deal with this used, sold as new? So it gives us like a 10,000 or a 20,000 foot view on plans of action. They do change from time to time. We shift when we see some things are working rather than others. We've also done countless policy teams escalations, countless Bezos escalations. We've also dealt extensively with notice dispute. And also I learned a lot of information through handling arbitrations against Amazon, where I get to cross-examine people produced by Amazon in each individual case. And I try and gather as much information. And I wish I could publish a list of what I've learned, but the arbitrations have a confidentiality provision. So I know a lot. I use that information to help sellers. My team knows what I know. And so this is where we get our information from. Thousands of suspensions, policy escalations, Bezos escalations, arbitrations, and dealing with notice dispute over and over and over and over again. Now, what I want to talk to you about is when you get an inauthentic, what you need to do is really write a really short, concise plan of action, even if they're just asking you for the invoices, and you have to give fantastic invoices, okay? So what you want to do before you turn over any invoice, and it's actually better, if you address this when you're sourcing your products, if you say, hey, listen, distributor, let me take a look at your invoices before I buy products from you. And you can even help that distributor write a better invoice for Amazon sellers or for you, okay? So first, do not buy anything from any distributor who still has the word liquidator on his letterhead or in his phone number or her phone number. Amazon for the last at least 2 years has kind of rejected liquidators' invoices. It's not something that they're looking for. The people in India are trained to sort of not give too much weight to a liquidator, okay? Also, you want to, on that invoice, have the address of your distribution. That address, you could even do a Google Earth and take a look. Make sure it looks like a business. If the address goes out to something, to farmland, there's nobody there, the business doesn't exist, don't buy. You have to make sure that the address matches. Your distributor or your source, you should have a phone number, and it should work, because Amazon is making more and more and more calls to distributors. They're trying to authenticate the invoices that they receive. Also, I see people are watching. If there are any questions out there, feel free to post. You can interrupt me. I'm here to pay it forward and to give information, okay? Your distributor should have a website. I mean, this is the modern era. They should have a website that should work. They should have their email address, so should Amazon email them, okay? And this is usually on the left side of the invoice, identifying where the source is coming from, okay? And if that invoice has other things like logos of the major brands or logos of the brands you're purchasing, those are bonuses. Now, on the right side of the invoice or below the source of where you're getting your products, you want to have your name. And I don't mean like your personal name, and I don't even mean your corporate name. I mean the name on your account, your Amazon account. And if you are a seller who is operating multiple Amazon accounts, get separate invoices for each one of your accounts, but have the account name on the invoice. And if you can't do that, have at least the corporate name that owns the Amazon account, or whatever the main name on the account is. But you want that name to match as closely as possible to what is on your Amazon account. The address on the invoice, you want that to match whatever address you used when you created your Amazon account. You want that address to match, okay? If you also have a website that matches, I like domain names that match up. I know that may not be possible. Have the domain name on there. It shows it's you, that it's the same seller on Amazon that is on that invoice. The phone number on the invoice, make it the same phone number. The email address. Now, I don't recall exactly where I learned this, but it's my belief that Amazon, when their staff is looking at the invoice to see whether they're going to accept your invoice, reject them, or ask you for more information, they want to see the same email address on that invoice that is the main email address on your Amazon seller's account. So again, if you are operating multiple accounts, which I'm often in favor of, even though it violates Amazon policy, I think in many cases, for many sellers, it's a really great thing to do it, even though it gives you a little more risk that you may get hit with related accounts. But you want the email address on the invoice to match the main email address on your Amazon account, okay? I know it sounds silly. We all have multiple email addresses. We have them for private email versus public email. We have them for certain, I use different ones for the airlines to keep my points straight. I still have an AOL address from way back in the day. But whatever email address you are using for your Amazon account, okay, get that on the invoice. Also, watch the dates on the invoice, okay? If you received an inauthentic on June 1st, okay, your invoice can't post date that. It has to be before that when you source the products. I mean, these things have to make sense, and you don't know whether the person reading your plan of action and evaluating your invoices is going to put an hour into it or 5 minutes. So make sure they can't poke any holes. I guess if that was the theme of invoices, is to submit invoices that Amazon cannot find a reason to disregard that invoice, okay? So make sure the dates match. Okay, now, Amazon does allow you to redact certain information. I strongly advise sellers not to redact anything from the invoice, okay? Now, the quantity of units, the number of units you purchased, it should sort of match what you're selling. If the invoice says you bought 5 units, but you have 500 in FBA, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, okay? And again, you don't want to give them any reason at all. I hope I'm not speaking too fast. I know I'm going a mile a minute here. You can replay this. This should stay on Facebook indefinitely. And it will be on our YouTube channel, Amazon Sellers Lawyer, the YouTube channel. But you want the quantity of units. It doesn't have to match exactly, but it has to make sense, okay? The price of units, like I said a few moments ago, don't redact anything. Don't cross it out. Don't black it out. Amazon is generally not going shopping where you are, although they do use us. They use you for their research and development. Your goal is to get back online. And the price that you're paying for the unit should be in the ballpark of what other people are purchasing at wholesale, okay? If this mug that my awesome daughter Samantha made for me is generally selling for $50 a mug, you shouldn't be sourcing it for 50 cents. It just doesn't make any sense. So leave the price per unit there because it should match up. It should be something among the realm of reality, whatever your product is. It should indicate when the order was placed. Okay. Again, you need a certain amount of time. If you were dinged on June 1st, you could not have placed the order for those products on May 25th. The timing is just too short. And the same thing as to when the products were delivered. All the dates, the timeline. If you could imagine someone sitting in Hyderabad or Bangalore or Costa Rica or Ireland where these things are read, and they're just writing a little timeline on their pad next to their computer, the timeline has to make sense. When you ordered, when it was delivered, how many units were there, the pricing has to make sense, okay? Make sure that nobody can poke a hole in your invoices, okay? Now, the address where the products are delivered, okay? It should match the address on the account. If you're running multiple Amazon accounts, you should have multiple addresses. If you're in an urban area, it's a little bit easier. You're in Monsey, Lakewood, Borough Park, Williamsburg, Shenzhen, China, places where there are clusters of Amazon sellers, the address may not be as important. But if you're in more rural areas, that address is vital, okay? You don't want that address not to match your account, and you certainly don't want that address to match another account. So be careful, look at your invoices. You have to do an examination of your invoices, just like we do before you send them in. Okay, now you don't want to send in Excel spreadsheets, okay? Even if you're sending, if it's what you normally create in the operation of your business, don't send in your Excel spreadsheets. You're going to get dinged with manipulated documents or forged documents. That's the category they fall into. And we see this every single week, if not every day. Amazon calls certain invoices pro forma. Those are just something you make on QuickBooks. So you want your invoices to be unique if you can. If they are kind of generic looking, but everything else is okay, I wouldn't refrain from buying from that distributor. But when you're submitting something, if it's unique, if it has the distributor's logo on it, has the address, if it looks a little different or just looks real, okay, like this whole, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. That goes for fake invoices as well, okay? Photoshop, okay? Photoshop, Photoshop, Photoshop. If you Photoshop an invoice, if you create an invoice, if you alter an invoice, do not send the electronic file. I am not a Photoshop guy. I am not a big tech guy. But I want to tell you something. Amazon has people on their team that are. Okay, so if you have Photoshopped something or changed something, I would suggest you print it, you scan it, or do something else if you're engaged in that type of activity. But never, ever, ever, never, ever send a Photoshopped invoice in the electronic format. Okay. Also, if you are sending invoices into Amazon from the same source and the invoices look different, okay, that's a huge red flag. You're sending in things that are internally inconsistent. It's the same thing that if you make up a fake invoice for a very well-known distributor, okay, it's got to match up. I went live either yesterday or the day before because I was so upset that this consultant out of Texas sent in a letter of distribution and an invoice for the same company that looked entirely different. I mean, it just looked fake. And again, doesn't mean it is fake, right? Maybe their letterhead is different than their invoices. I don't know. But to anyone looking at it from the outside in, especially someone at Amazon in India, right? It just looked fake. So don't send in anything that looks fake, even if it's real. Your goal, your main goal is to get back to selling. So there's a Cajun saying, and the saying goes something like this, that it is easier to ride the horse in the direction that it's going. So they want to see invoices that match. That's the way the horse is going. Give them what they want. Get back to selling. Look at your invoices incredibly carefully. Okay, in this vein of looking for anything that might be challenged, okay, if they want invoices for 365 days or 180 days or 90 days, give it to them, okay? Could it take you a few more days or a week or so to get your documents together, to go back to your supplier, to go back to your distributor and get the invoices that they need? Then do it. This is your livelihood. If you lose a week of business, that's terrible, but it's not anywhere near as bad as losing a year or losing the entire account and losing your reviews. So give them what they are looking for. In the description of your invoices, if it can describe the parent-child type listing, colors, sizes, variations, different types of packaging, UPC codes, SKUs, whatever. Any additional information that is accurate and that matches Amazon's listing and matches your listing is only going to help you. Invoices that just say like 50 microphones or 50 headsets, is really not a place you should source from. You need more detail. You want as much detail as possible on your invoices so that if you should need to submit them to Amazon, you have them already. You can get them out the door with a high quality. So these are things you need to look at your invoices for, and also ask your supplier, ask your distributor to provide to you. Now, we have even seen inauthentic suspensions on products and on accounts for private label products. It makes absolutely no sense. It's your brand. You have developed this brand. It's yours. So how could it be inauthentic? Well, you still have to respond. You still have to ride the horse in the direction that it's going and persuade whoever's on the end of the terminal at Amazon side, right? Whether it's Bangalore or wherever, to click reinstate, right? Rather than ask for more information. So what can you submit when the complaint itself doesn't make any sense? What we have done successfully in the past, or what I suggest, is to treat it with the utmost seriousness and give them what they need so they can click the right button for you. Okay, you can use the email since you had the idea, went back and forth, maybe to your factory, whatever it was, to show that this is something you created, your drawings, the plans for the product. You could even give your receipts and your airline tickets and your hotel receipts for when you went to like Global Sources or Retail Global or ASD to show where you decided to buy that product, where you sourced it. Okay, and also just as another aside, ASD in Vegas is going to be a remarkable event. The lectures upstairs are second to none. Eddie Levine from Wholesale Breakthrough arranged, and Robin Thompson arranged for fantastic speakers. It's July 29th through August 1st or so. We'll be there. I'll be there. Retail Global will be in Vegas in October. Ecom Chicago in October. I mean, just fantastic events. Fantastic. If I'm forgetting anybody, I'm sorry. Pictures of your products. Your picture of your lifeline development. Your product could be very persuasive. Your invoices from the factories where you're sourcing. A copy of your trademark application if it hasn't been approved yet. If it has been approved, submit that. You want to write a plan of action, okay, to identify and summarize what we're saying, short and concise and persuasive. And if you're sourcing in China and some of the correspondence is in different language or in Vietnam, you want to submit the original and provide a translation. Again, all you are trying to do, all this mishigas, which mishigas is Yiddish for craziness, all of this craziness that you're trying to give to Amazon has one goal: persuade the Amazon staff on the other side to reinstate your listing or your account and give them what they need. So that is our first Selling and Afraid webinar, okay? And I don't want you to be afraid. I want you to prepare right now. As you source more products, I want you to make sure you're getting invoices that you know will pass muster at Amazon if you have a problem. If you have any more questions, email me. If you want a free copy of our book on your guide, I'm gonna pull it up right here. I know this might be a little much. This is our book. This is the latest information, and it's being updated by one of our leading paralegals here, Vincent Familaro, who can do everything from soup to nuts. And like everybody else on our team here, college educated American working in Long Beach, New York, in a collaborative environment. So we share what we know. I'm happy to provide you a free copy of the book domestically. Our website, AmazonSellersLawyer.com. You can email me directly, CJ@AmazonSellersLawyer.com. We have a YouTube channel. We teach a lot of this stuff. We try and pay it forward. And what I also want to do, and I'm going to stop my own self-promotion right now, although I have the greatest team on the planet in terms of writing plans of action and dealing with IP issues, is the Ty Lewis Campbell Foundation. Ty Lewis Campbell Foundation. If you are buying anything, I gotta get down here and type it for you, okay? It's called the Ty Lewis Campbell Foundation, okay? If you are buying anything at all on Amazon, okay, or if you're getting a box every single day delivered to your home or your office, sign up for Amazon Smiles, and please pick the Ty Lewis Campbell Foundation. Fraternity brother of mine named Lou Campbell and his beautiful wife Cindy lost their son Ty to brain cancer. Devastating. I mean, unbelievable what this child went through. And Lou and his wife Cindy have created this foundation where they raise tons and tons of money solely to find better treatments and hopefully a cure one day for pediatric cancers. They got the Muddy Puddles project coming this summer. I think it's August 4th or August 6th if you're in the Northeast. It is a fantastic event where you have like food fights and you paint each other and obstacle courses and sliding down hills on suds and bubbles. The Muddy Puddles project, but the charity, the Ty Lewis Campbell Foundation, you're buying products anyway, and by choosing Amazon Smiles and by picking the Ty Lewis Campbell Foundation, Amazon will make a small donation to the foundation, and every penny helps. Okay, so please shop through Amazon Smiles and use the Ty Lewis Campbell Foundation. And please stay tuned. Selling and Afraid. We're going to be doing this as often as I can because I don't want you to be afraid. Okay, if you need any help, we are here to help you. Our fees are the same as the non-lawyer consultants out there, quote unquote consultants. If you have any questions, email me. Amazon Smiles, Ty Lewis Campbell Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us, and I will post another one as soon as I can.